Video is taking you through the different qualification options for you in the English department, looking specifically at English language GCSE and functional skills. In the English department, we offer 3 qualifications: English Literature GCSE, English Language GCSE, and Functional Skills English. This is quite different to the majority of mainstream schools, where all students are prepared for both English Language and Literature GCSE and taught it together as just English on their timetable. Unless you already have English Language GCSE or Functional Skills English at a high enough grade for your next steps after Red Balloon, you will need to study for one of these qualifications. English Literature is an entirely optional qualification, so I've made a separate video for that one. In this video, we're looking at comparing English Language GCSE and Functional Skills English and how you know which one is going to be a better fit for you. English language is made up of 2 exams, which both have a reading and a writing section, and also a spoken language presentation. The exams are 1 hour 45 minutes and 2 hours. The presentation is on a topic of your choice, and you only need to talk for about 2 minutes and answer some questions from your teacher. It doesn't have to be done with any other students, and it can be done over Teams with a recording of just your voice. In the first exam paper, you have one text to read, which will be an extract from a novel in the 20th century. It will be a couple of pages of A4 in length. You'll then have 5 questions to answer on it. We know roughly what the questions will be, but we don't know what the story is that you'll have to read. So over the year, we'll practice these 5 questions using lots of different stories so you can practice your skills. You then also have to plan, write, and proofread a short, simple story. In paper 2, you have 2 texts to read. One of them will be from 2000 onwards, and one from the 19th century, so some of the words or phrases might be unfamiliar or a bit confusing. There are 6 questions to answer, and again, we know roughly what type of questions they'll be. We just don't know which texts and which topics or themes the text will be on. You then have 2 short writing tasks. For these, the exam board pick 2 tasks from a list. We know it'll be one of these 6 options, but we don't know which ones. It could be a letter, a speech, an article, a guide, a report, or a review. For the reading sections, some questions are quite straightforward, and all you need to do is scan through the texts and pick out the right answer. But most of them need you to do much more than that. They need you to analyse how the writer is creating specific ideas and feelings as you read. How have they made it exciting? How have they made it clear what the characters are like? How have they portrayed the relationships between characters? How are the texts similar and different to each other? You can see there's an example of the type of question that is very typical. How does the writer show the character of Emma? You can see there that you've got 10 marks for one question. What you need to do to approach a question like this, pick out lots of little quotations from the text explaining what that character is like and how those quotations show that character. Lots of the skills you need to show aren't explicitly mentioned in that question, and you need to show them all together in the same answer. A lot of what we're doing on this course is helping you get really comfortable with what the examiner wants to see and how you can show it. This is a skills-based qualification rather than a knowledge-based qualification. It doesn't necessarily help you to be able to define what an adverb is if you can't pick one out from the text and explain how that specific adverb has been used to portray that character. There's a lot to do to answer these questions and not a lot of time to do it in. For example, for a 10-mark question like this, you'd be looking to try to make 5 little points, each with a quotation, each with an explanation of that effect, in around 10 minutes. For English language, students receive an overall 1 to 9 grade, and the spoken language presentation is graded separately with a pass, merit, or distinction. It's only the marks on the 2 exams which go together to determine the 1 to 9. Most colleges are interested in seeing you get a grade 4 or above, although some colleges may well offer a placement for a lower grade. So it's worthwhile checking on where you're interested in going to see what kind of grade they're needing you to get. Functional skills is structured very differently. There are 3 equal parts: 1 reading exam, 1 writing exam, and 2 speaking listening tasks. So you can see that already everything is a little bit more broken up for this qualification. They've split the reading and writing into 2 separate exams rather than having a little bit of both in together. The speaking listening is more demanding though. You have to do 2 tasks instead of 1, a presentation, which is very similar to the one for a GCSE, and a discussion. These are on topics that you can choose and can be done with just you and your teacher or with your mentor. These need to be filmed though, so can't be done over a Teams call like a GCSE presentation. The discussion needs you to be talking backwards and forwards with the other person for around 10 minutes. You need to ask the other person what they think on the topic, respond to what they've said, make polite interruptions, redirect the discussion in a different direction. You can't just answer questions from the other person. You need to be much more engaged in the discussion than that. So speaking listening here is more than on the GCSE. And unlike the GCSE, where it's its own separately graded section, this goes towards the overall functional skills. It's an equal third. The exams are much shorter than for a GCSE. Both reading and writing exams are only an hour long. The reading exam has lots of little questions worth 1 or 2 marks each. Some of them are tick box style or true or false, some are multiple choice. The texts are shorter and simpler than the GCSE ones. They're all non-fiction texts, things like leaflets, web page articles, interview transcripts and letters. The skills are more broken down and there's only 1 question which is worth over 5 marks. The majority are 1 mark questions. The writing paper is 2 tasks, very similar to the writing section of the second GCSE paper. You're asked to write everyday tasks like letters, emails, reports, reviews, messages. You're given an imaginary scenario to base your writing around, such as your community centre is going to introduce some adult classes and you want to suggest one. So you write an email to the organiser suggesting the class that you would like to run. As you can see here, you're not expected to write as much for functional skills as you are for the GCSE tasks. GCSE there suggests 300 to 400 words. The functional skills task suggests 150 to 200. You're also given more support with the planning in the question. The mark scheme is also more generous. And it's focused on whether the writing can be understood. Does it fulfil the task? As you can see here, the GCSE mark scheme at the top is wanting things like, is it ambitious? Is it sophisticated? Whereas functional skills is using terms like fit for purpose, appropriate, and clear. The functional skills qualification can also be broken up over the year. You can take exams in November, January, February, and May. Some students might start the year with their speaking and listening and enter that part in November, sit a reading exam in February, and then only have the writing exam in May. GCSEs can only be taken in the summer. Functional skills is a pass or fail qualification rather than the 1 to 9 or merit pass and distinction, but each part, the speaking, listening, the reading and the writing, must be passed to pass overall. For GCSE, all of the marks for both papers are all added together to see which number grade you're given. A poorer reading skill set could be balanced by a much stronger writing, for example, whereas in functional skills, they all need to be passed separately. Functional skills is available in 2 tiers, level 1 and level 2. They're very similar, but there are some skills that don't appear on the level 1 reading paper, which are on level 2, and a greater level of engagement and leadership is needed in the speaking, listening discussion. The overall pass mark is also slightly higher. It's important to think about your next steps after Red Balloon. Some colleges will accept a functional skills level 2 instead of GCSE, but not all of them. Some will accept students with functional skills as long as they study for English GCSE while they're at college. It's important to think about your long-term goals. If you want to do A-levels, you will definitely need GCSE. However, if the complexity and length of exams will make GCSE not a valid option, then a qualification with functional skills is possibly better for you than a grade 1 or 2 GCSE. It can also make a lot of difference to your self-esteem and experience of sitting a qualification to study for the year, sit manageable length exams and pass, rather than not be able to complete the course or not complete the exam papers on the day. A good place to start when thinking about whether functional skills or GCSE is the better fit is to speak to your English teacher. They've been working with you and know the courses well and will be able to suggest which one might be the best way forward. Whatever options you choose, what matters is that you've made a choice that's right for you and serves you. Qualifications are there to show off what you can do, and like with everything at Red Balloon, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You should do what will work for you, and we will support you with that however we can.